grant looks like overall. So if you could take this handout and, Deborah, I don't know if you got the handout that's the one pager that is called Facts about the grant. And we'll just, I'm just going to briefly summarize that. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure, first of all, that everybody, we can start actually on the back side. I wanted to make sure everybody knew who was on the grant, and so you can identify each other. At the top, we have the project director and the 3 co-directors. One of our co-directors, Gina Kuntz, was not able to be with us today. She had to be in a meeting in Union, but we could have done it without her either. She is the director of the Research Institute at the College of Education. Evaluation team leaders are also from the College of Education, right across the hall from us, and are working with us closely from the very beginning so that we can make sure that we are continuously looking to make sure that we're making our goals and making adjustments as we need to in order to do that. Specialists and consultants, you'll see there, these are the folks primarily from the university, and also Alan, who is our independent consultant on education policy and family engagement. But these are the folks that we're going to be drawing expertise from in terms of their particular areas when we're talking about particular population of families, so that we can make sure that we're adapting what we're doing to be a good fit for the culture and values of each community that we're serving. And then you'll see the partner organizations listed there. I want to emphasize, especially for the folks here who are not maybe formal partners on that list, that this is not a finite list of partners. We are here to work with everyone who has an interest, and however we can support you, and if you would like to contribute to our effort, certainly please, my card is over here, please give me a call and we can meet and talk further, but this is just the beginning. So I really am glad that we've got some other folks here. Obviously, we're about family engagement and education, but in terms of supporting families and supporting their students in achieving academically, that obviously involves other issues such as health and wellness and supports for all kinds of different things that go into the whole child. So we're not limited just to folks our partners are not limited just to folks who are concerned just with parents and academics. We're looking more broadly to make sure that we're covering all the needs of children in order for them to be able to learn. Okay? And then on the flip side, just so you have a point of reference, the grant program that we are funded under is called the Statewide Family Engagement Center Program. It's in Title IV of ESSA. And I put a website address there in case you wanted to find out more information. Now, they were supposed to be posting the full project narratives and a lot of the other grant documents and more information about the grant in general in other states that have been funded. There were 39 states that applied, 11 who were funded. So there should be information coming up on that. It's not there yet, but there should be information coming up if you're interested in that. I'll talk in just a minute about the grant purpose and focus of services. It's a 5-year grant. We have approximately $1 million per year for 5 years. And it's coming from the Office of Innovation and Improvement at the U.S. Department of Education. They're going through reorganization, so I'm not sure that that office is going to continue to exist. So we may be under a different office after a while, but for the moment, that's where we are. And the lead grantee agency was the South Carolina School Improvement Council, and with our partner, the State Department of Education, the Office of Family Engagement, Yolanda Anderson, which I don't see her. I don't see her here yet today. So that's just an overview of how it's structured. In terms of the budget, we have an approved budget for year 1. The vets have approved it. I've talked individually with a lot of you folks who have money coming in or out. And if you have any questions about that, please see me afterwards. I'll be here and I can talk specifically to any issues or questions you have about that. We're also working right now on branding. We're looking to hire a project manager who's going to be a full-time person in our office, as well as 6 regional liaisons who are going to be working in the field. And we're also working on filling out and convening our advisory committee, which is a body that's required under the grant. It's going to be primarily made up of parents, but it will also have representatives from different levels of public education and different minority groups, et cetera. So there's a formula that we have to follow in order to fill that committee, but they should be up and running hopefully by next month. So that's kind of where we are on that stuff. But then I also wanted to take, and I don't want to take too much time, okay. I just want to take a brief moment, because I know you all have a piece of the puzzle, your organization or your expertise, but we may not have had an opportunity to see the big picture. Like when we put all the pieces together, what does this grant look like? What is the center actually going to look like? What's it going to do? So that's what I wanted to do real briefly. If you have more questions, I'll be, again, available afterwards to talk. But so the call that we were given from the Department of Education and ESSA was to provide high-impact cradle-to-career capacity building training and technical assistance in evidence-based family engagement programs and strategies that support student achievement and school improvement. And I just kind of wanted to emphasize a couple points. Cradle to career, so that means that we are not just K through 12, we are birth through the end of, well, these days it could go on forever. Your education career is never really over. So, but in terms of parental involvement, I guess we can say at the end of the high school years. So that's one thing that I wanted to emphasize. Evidence-based family engagement programs and strategies. That's something that is very strongly emphasized by USDOE, and so that's something that we're really going to be working on in terms of using our research institute, our specialists, and our partners to help us identify those programs and strategies that either they are using or that they're aware of, so that we can create something of a database so that schools and districts can access those more easily. Because right now, it's not real easy to access those things. At least it has not been my experience. If it has been yours, please let me know, because one of our big things is we do not want to recreate the wheel. If there's a great database out there, all we want to do is have people access it. So we don't want to create things that are already out there. So to the extent that you hear me talk about anything that, you know, oh, I know that's already, there's a good one out there, please just send me an email or something, let me know, because that's not our thing. We want to use what's out there first. Supporting student achievement and school improvement, I think I already addressed that. Again, we're looking at academics, but we're also looking at the whole development of the child. So in terms of partnerships, we're looking to be able to connect schools and families with services they need to meet the needs of the whole child, not just the academic piece. Okay, and we are charged, or the call was to address capacity building needs at all levels, state level, district, school, family level, and community-based organizations. This is important. Our focus, 60 to 65% of our money is supposed to be used, at least 65% of the grant money is to go to populations with these characteristics: families with low incomes, parents of English learners, minorities, students with disabilities, homeless children and youth in foster care, and migrant students. Well, we know that in South Carolina, I think I did a survey of our districts, and I think there are only like maybe 8 districts who have a poverty index under 50%. So we know that most of our districts are going to be eligible under this grant. But we also, and you'll see how these kind of, some of these categories match up with some of the partners in the room here. We're looking to really focus on building our capacity as a center to be able to reach those folks. If anyone has any contacts in particularly the migrant community, foster care, or the homeless, I know there are some folks at the Department of Ed that have some specialty in that, and also Native American populations. Please, if you would drop me an email and let me know, because we really want to make sure that we're including those folks in our advisory council as we continue to build our programs and services, that those folks are represented. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about years 1 and 2 real briefly of the grant. Basically, our grant response was we were going to provide ongoing capacity building training. Ongoing is important. We are going to provide one-time trainings, but our experience in student improvement councils has been that one-time trainings, while helpful and able to speak to this, are not necessarily enough, that there needs to be that ongoing technical assistance over time to build capacity. So we're looking at building relationships, ongoing capacity building, training technical assistance in family engagement to district schools and families. So how are we going to do that? We're going to have 6 regional liaisons in the field. We at School Improvement Council have divided the state up for a while into 6 different regions. They don't really correspond with congressional districts or anything like that. They're just sort of a common sense way of dividing the regions, the Midlands, the PD, and so forth. So there'll be one regional liaison based in each of those districts, or each of those regions, and they will be responding to district schools and families who are requesting assistance in family engagement, with emphasis, of course, on those schools that have high populations of the families that we are to focus on. And we'll be looking, again, for support and expertise from USC College of Education, from the specialists, from the partners, from the Research Institute, all of those folks coming in to be able to answer questions if we have a particular population of, say, for example, students with disabilities. We can call in Family Connection and say, our regional liaison can call on their folks in the field there and make those connections. So we want to get support and expertise from all of you. But one thing we didn't want to do, and our main vision for this grant was, we didn't want to pick a particular program or a particular evidence-based sort of in-the-box kind of program and say, we're going to deliver this to all these people. Because we want this to be generated from the bottom up. We want folks in the field and in these communities and schools to be able to say to us, this is what we need, and how can we go about addressing that? And I wasn't sure that we would really actually get funded to do that, because there seemed to be such an emphasis on picking, certain things. So that was one of the reasons I was very thrilled that we are going to have the freedom to be able to work with folks and talk, to get to know the communities, to identify what their needs are, help them identify what their needs are, set goals, and then if they want a program out of the box that meets a need that they have, that's fine. We'll help them connect with some of the folks out here who already do those things and have that happen. But we also want to be able to work over time, over 2 to 3 years, which was what we will have with the schools, to be able to build those relationships, see what works, see what doesn't, and really help them to become proficient in this work. So that's where GTO and organizational readiness comes in. It's basically a way of thinking about doing this that is strategic and that is going to provide our regional liaisons and our schools with a roadmap of how do we deliver a program, a comprehensive program of family engagement in a way that's strategic and is most likely to be most effective for all our families. That's going to be a good fit for the culture and the community, okay? So I'm going to let Abe talk more about that. And then we will have a website and materials available. And again, materials, we're not going to create stuff that's already out there. If you have materials you want us to push out there, we'll have the specialists and so forth to be able to help us evaluate those things to see what is best. And Ellen's going to be out there collecting stuff, so we're going to be able to put all that in one place so it's easier to get to. Okay, other core component is what is very relevant here. They're both relevant, but beginning developing statewide infrastructure to support family engagement. That was something that was in the grant that was key, a key requirement. We want to look at horizontal as well as vertical networks. In other words, we want to talk about that need for the whole child, and horizontally at the state level, what are all the different areas of expertise that we can bring together to serve all the different needs. But we also need to think vertically, how are we going to tie together the early childhood piece from DSS and first steps with the K through 12 system, particularly in that transition to kindergarten time. Okay. And then I just wanted to make a mention, this is so important, our deep fundamental commitment to equity in education and opportunity will be woven throughout the fabric of CFEC. That is not just a talking point, it's real, and I, as the project director, and I'm sure as all of you here feel, it's critical if we are to achieve the mission of this grant that we think about this often and examine ourselves and hold ourselves accountable for meeting this commitment. And if anyone in the room ever sees CFEC not doing that, please talk to me, because this is underlying everything. It's about equity, it's about closing the achievement gap, it's about opportunity for all families. So I just want to emphasize that that is a critical core driver of everything that we do. Okay, so just basically I gave you a little bit of the structure already. Leadership and evaluation teams housed in the College of Education. So you can look on your slide and see, but I want to give you just sort of an overview of where everybody's at. And again, our approach, let's not reinvent the wheel, let's make it more effective, big. And so I'm going to turn it over to A now, and he's going to talk about how getting to outcomes and readiness assessments are going to help us when we go out and work with the schools and the communities and the families to take what's out there in the world of family engagement and use it more strategically to get better results. Okay, Abe?
Thank you. How's the sound? Good? Good. So I was thinking that some of you heard that I have the title Distinguished. If you were in the same place for 39 years, you too will be called Distinguished. All right. I was on the faculty here for 39 years, still working quite hard. And I'm really thrilled to be part of this Family Engagement Center. As you may know, the governor yesterday in his inauguration speech really emphasized education. It seems like this will be a big year for education. And as everybody in this room knows, we are not at the top by any means. We have a long ways to go. How do we get there so we really make a difference for the youth in our state? And that's what drives us. That's what drives our work in getting to outcomes. I've been working on partnerships and coalitions since 1990. And I'm still excited about the potential of coalitions and partnerships. And I've also been around long enough to know that many of them don't achieve outcomes, don't really make a difference. And that's how and why we have worked collaboratively to develop what's called Getting to Outcomes, and our work on readiness is once you get those people together, like the great partners we have in this room, what do you do? And that's what Getting to Outcomes and readiness is supposed to help us work with. And every project we work with is collaborative. There's a popular term of co-design. What we're interested in is really working together on figuring out how we can make real achievement. So one of the projects we're working with is the U.S. Air Force on integrated violence prevention and resilience, such as suicide prevention and sexual assault prevention. And every installation in the world, U.S. Air Force installation in the world, is using GTO and readiness to develop a strategic plan and then implement in those areas. And they like to talk about something called BLUF, bottom line up front. Okay. So in terms of bottom line up front, I've kind of indicated what we think the role is of what we're talking about today, working collaboratively. And what I'd like you to know is that by the time you leave today, you'll have heard a lot of stuff. If you remember that there is something called Getting to Outcomes, it's a process that is customized to each school, each district, essentially each parent. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It is a process that helps you work with each student, each parent, each teacher, each school district in a way that is customized to them. So it's a strategic best practice process. So knowing that there is something called getting to outcomes, knowing that there are 10 steps, and then knowing that there's something called the readiness to actually do something, which we call R equals MC squared. It involves motivation and capacity. In order to be ready to do something, you need to be both motivated to do it and know how to do it. So if you know those things at the end, you've gotten the main message. I like to use metaphors a lot, and one of the metaphors I think about is tennis. How many of you play tennis? Okay, not that many. All right, so this is a good metaphor. So you know that it's a game that involves a forehand, a backhand, a serve, play into the net, all kinds of stuff. So if you were to go to tennis camp on your first day, they introduce you to all those things. Are you ready to enter a tournament? Not quite. You have to practice those things and get good at it. Today is an orientation. I'm not expecting anybody to be experts at the end of 2 hours. It's getting into the idea of what this is about, why it's important, and that there's more to learn to actually get good at it. All right, so you all have heard of Shakespeare. He said, readiness is all. Readiness is all. But it took Hamlet 5 acts to get ready. Okay? This is the 5th act where he's finally dueling with Laertes. And I had an opportunity actually to go to Denmark, to Elsinore Castle, where Hamlet takes place. And I'd just like to have this picture. They actually put on plays of Hamlet in the castle, and people like Sir Laurence Olivier, you may have heard of him, he may have been before your time. Sir Richard Burton, also you may have heard of him, he may have been before. They've actually played in that castle as Hamlet. It's pretty cool. All right, I like to have slides of my grandsons. So proud of these guys. So this is early in their existence. What it says on their onesies is, world, get ready for me, R equals MC squared. And by the end of today, you will know what R equals MC squared means. Now, Shakespeare said readiness is all. Actually, Wandersman, Image Shimon, the original developers of GTO, Getting to Outcomes, say readiness is not all. Because you have to know what you should be ready to do in the first place. Okay? So being ready to do something should be preceded by what you should be ready to do. And then being ready is not enough. University of Alabama might have been ready at the beginning of the game, but that was not enough. You have to implement. You have to see if it's working, you have to improve, and you have to sustain. They didn't quite get there. But in that Getting to Outcomes approach, we talk about all of those things. What you should be ready to do, being ready to do it, and then actually moving forward